Hello everybody, welcome back to GapChat. We're so excited to record another episode for you guys. I'm joined with George here.
Yo, yo.
And Jess.
Hi.
And today Jess is going to be asking me and George questions about what it's like to be a mentor. So a bit of a backstory. George and I work together for the Gap and we're both qualified mentors. And we have regular mentees that we visit weekly and yeah. So Jess is going to ask us what it's like to be a mentor.
Yes. So question 1 is, what's the best advice you can give to help plan a career rather than simply work to keep a job?
Shall I go first?
You can go first, George.
I would always say, and I think I probably do say actually to mentees, that if you find something that you absolutely love and adore,
Oh, damn it, this is what I was going to say.
like, if you find something, a hobby, if you find, I don't know, if you're musical, like, I remember when I was younger, like, people used to tell me not to pursue it as much because it's not going to get me far or it's not going to earn me money, but ultimately it brings me so much joy, and I'm actually lucky enough to actually work in some kind of aspect with music. But it could be anything. It could be law. It could be, I don't know, anything. If you enjoy it and it brings you joy, I'd always I'd always encourage people to go after that before anything, because you can become very going to work again today, and it can get like that. Jobs are just like that, but yeah, follow the joy. That's what I go. That's what I say.
I was going to say something very similar. It's about where your passion is and where you want to make a difference in the world, and also what your gifts are. You might end up getting stuck in a job that actually is not benefiting you because it's not blessing your gifts. I think if you can find a job that blesses you and you bless the job, that is like perfect. That's why I feel so privileged to work as a youth worker at the Gap. But yeah, it's not about the money. You can't take it to the grave. I know a lot of people are money orientated, and you do need money to kind of do life. But if you can find something where you earn money but you're also thriving, that's just the one, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Question 2. How do you encourage innovative ideas?
How do you encourage innovative ideas?
So I try and tap into, again, what the young people enjoy doing, what makes them smile. I think when I'm with a mentee and I'm talking to them and they mention something that they like, their face lights up and I can automatically see, okay, that's something that they enjoy. And also as well, I don't know if you find this, George, you can start off with a mentee and ask them, what are your hobbies, what do you like? And they're like, I don't know. But actually when you get that conversation going, you can find out there's so many layers to them and they actually love so many different things.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just encouraging them and kind of, being that hype girl, hype man, hype woman, or whatever around them, and telling them that I don't know, so we've had it before where we've seen young people use their gifts but they don't believe in themselves, and it's telling them, no, you are really good at that, or keep practicing, it's going to make you better and better, and kind of encouraging them.
Yeah. I was literally about to say around, they don't even know, when you ask them that question, like, what are your interests? And it's like, yeah, they don't know. It's like, but it's just finding that little golden nugget, isn't it, in them. I had a young person, once, we were like talking about gaming and stuff like that, and then we ended up talking about board games, and then by the end of it, we were creating a board game together, and like I sent him off like 1 week, and he came back and he made this whole like board game.
That's so cool.
And yeah, that alone, some people could be like, a board game, like, that's not going to get you anywhere, like, do you know what I mean? But that's something that he's created, and if it wasn't, even if it is just a hobby, like, it brought him so much, like, value in himself and satisfaction that he'd created something. So yeah, I think you're right, just like, pulling the gold from them kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's that guidance. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and then you pull little ideas, and then comes into one big one.
Yeah.
So, question 3: how would you describe your personal style?
In mentoring.
Yes.
I don't know if I have one. God.
I think with mine, my personal style in mentoring is I try to empathize with the young person. So like if they're crying and they're having a bad day, I'll let them know it's okay because I have that as well. I don't want to go in and be like, oh, I'm this great person that's got my life together and I'm on the other side and I don't understand what you're going through. And just be like more realistic and human with them. But also as well, I really try to be that strength for them. And so it was recently actually I was with one of my mentees and they were saying stuff over themselves like, I hate myself, I'm dumb, I'm ugly. And I was like, stop. If you said that to me, if you said, Laura, you're ugly, I hate you, and you're dumb, is that acceptable? And she said no. So I said it's not acceptable for you to speak over yourself like that.
Yeah.
And we did some I am affirmations, and I got her to tell herself that she was brave and that she's strong and that she is not what other people think, and just kind of spoke that over her. And I tried to be that positive influence on them and that joy and but also tell them that it's okay to have bad days, it's okay to cry, like we're human.
Yeah.
What about your personal style?
I'm not sure I have like a style per se, but I think one thing similarly to you, when I started off doing it, I was probably really like practically driven, if that makes sense, in terms of like I'd almost like look at a session with this young person and that is like almost like a structure for like every young person, if that makes sense. But like slowly I've just realised how like you just need to be completely real and meet them on where they're at, if that makes sense, because everyone's different, aren't they? So yeah, I think just being completely real and you know, sometimes it's just I don't even need to say anything and it's just listening to them. Sometimes I will share a little bit about me if I feel like it's appropriate and going to help. But yeah, just be real. Just being real. I think we're probably quite similar with that, aren't we? No, I'm probably answering exactly the same answer as you.
I'm probably answering the same as you.
So, question 4: do you have a mentor, and how do they influence you?
Do you want to answer first or?
I probably have many mentors and have had many mentors in my life. I've been very, very blessed in that way.
And have they influenced you in different ways?
Yeah. I've had a lot of, you know, for instance at church I have like my pastor, he's like my spiritual father, and like whenever I'm struggling with stuff, whenever I'm feel like I can't do it, do you know what I mean? Like I'll always like just be able to speak with him. And he says this really cool thing actually, it's kind of what you're alluding to, is like as like people we should have like one hand up, like being pulled up, if you like, by someone, and we should have one hand down.
Pulling someone else
pulling someone up. And that's something I've always remembered, and it's definitely impacted my life, you know. Without it, I think without those people in your life you kind of can feel alone, even though you got like your family, you got friends that but sometimes you don't want to speak to them and you want to just speak to someone, sometimes anonymously as well, just like that, you know, has no like interference with anything. But I think mentoring is massive at all stages of life. You know, when I'm 70, I hope I'm going to be still mentored by someone, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So before I even became a mentor myself, so when I first became a Christian, I was offered a mentor at the church I was at, and I'd see her once a week, and it was like very structured, like mentoring sessions. and it really benefited me. And then after that, I haven't per se had someone that I meet up that I call them my mentor, but like you, George, I have people that aren't my friends and aren't my family that I go to seek advice. I meet up with them weekly, and they have mentored me in different seasons, and I might tap into one of them for certain things about my life, and another one I'm basically using people around me for advice and stuff like that. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't do life without them, because just having someone to chat to, like you said, that doesn't have an opinion. Because I think with friends and family, they'll tell you what they think or what they think you should do. But sometimes you just want to tell someone and them not tell you what to do. But yeah, definitely it's important for everybody to have a mentor, whether you're a mentor yourself.
Yeah, I think one thing I'd say as well is, like, it sounds terrible, but I've maybe confided in the wrong people sometimes. Just as a little like spin on it, like maybe when I was a teenager, I'd confided in people that really just weren't building me up, and they were actually pulling me down. So I think choosing wisely those people is like really important as well. Like having that trust there that they want the best for you, and they're building you up, kind of thing.
Like you say, that's a learning curve for you to go through life. You learn from those mistakes.
Definitely, yeah.
100%.
So, question 6 or 5, I do apologise. What do you do to constantly challenge your underlining beliefs and assumptions?
I think practically, I can probably speak for me and George here, we have debriefs with our manager, and she keeps us in check and in line. And I think it's keeping on top of your training as well, because you can always learn more to help with your, what was it, beliefs and assumptions. But repeat the question again.
So what do you do to constantly challenge your underlining beliefs and assumptions?
I think with the assumptions thing as well, it's just having those check-ins to make sure you're not assuming things about your mentee, or judging, because everyone's on a different life journey. And sometimes you can really relate with your mentee, because you're like, oh yeah, I've been there, I've got the t-shirt for that, I know that. But sometimes you can have a mentee and you're like, do you know what, I've never even learnt about that, I don't even know what they're on about. And it's going out of your way to do your research and find out more so you can help them. I don't know if I answered that correctly.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think I'd say I'd always have the L plates on, and just being humble. Kind of what you were saying, like when there's been times I've had like debriefs and I've said this is what this young person's kind of like, and I've thought it was one thing, and then like, it's really like, boom.
Yeah.
And then it's like, whoa, I didn't see that. So it's so like beneficial having other people kind of other people's brains on it. Yeah. I'm hoping that's answering your question as well.
Yeah, it is. So next question is, would you do anything differently if given the opportunity?
So interesting, because you said we go through life and make mistakes to help us learn. So I'd like to say there's no regret.
In our lives in general, you mean?
Or in mentoring.
In general and mentoring.
Okay. I'm not going to sit and say I'm perfect, in my mentoring and stuff. There's probably things I could have done differently, yeah. I can't think of I can't pick a point out, you know what I mean? But I think definitely, like, just reiterating maybe what I've already said is just being humble and just being like, like, sorry, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Sorry if I've like upset you there, or and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I think like what you were saying as well. Just you know, I've learned on the journey in my life, just like all the different things, because I could probably name a whole thing, a bunch of things I wish I hadn't done. But, you know, we live and we learn and we grow and...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amen.
Okay. So next question. How and where do you find inspiration?
I find my inspiration in my work colleagues, George and Sabrina. They're like, and our volunteers, like Christine. She inspires me so much. I know,
She's such a lovely woman.
isn't she?
Oh, she's the best.
Shout out to Christine. We love you. And I know she listens to our podcast for a matter of fact, because we post it and then she tells me that she loved it. So.
Yeah.
And also I find inspiration in the young people. Jess, you're one of them. Watching you flourish and grow, like, don't get better than that, really. I think it proves to you that, like to myself, that what you're doing is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd agree with all of those, and you know, there's been countless times where like like a young person's kind of like said something and been like, flipping it, man, I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
I really needed to hear that today, like, thank you. And it's really blessed me. Like, I think you sometimes say that, like, they bless you more than we bless them sometimes.
Way more.
Like, you know, it's like a privilege, really. Yeah, it's cool.
It's so cool as well. Like, sometimes I'll leave a mentoring session, especially with you, and you just feel so joyful because they've given you so much joy, and you feel like you've maybe started off the session and they've been on a bit of a downer, and you see them leave with a spring in their step. It doesn't always happen. It doesn't. Yeah. I'm not trying to like paint a rosy picture about mentoring, and you just feel like, oh, that's so cool. Not that I did that, but that they did that, and all they needed to do was listen. Yeah. We don't really do much as mentors, really. We just sit there and listen and chat. Yeah.
Next question. How do you keep your feelings separate from your decision making?
Oh my gosh.
How? It's hard, you know. One. It's really hard. And I won't lie and say that sometimes, like, my feelings are, like, there, especially if it's around things that maybe you've personally walked through yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You feel so much, like, empathy. You feel, you feel obviously a lot of emotion. But I like to think of myself as someone that always thinks before they kind of like speak. So I try, it's all about discernment really, like, you know, I was actually learning about discernment this week, and it's just like this thing that is constantly like growing in your character, like the more you experience and the more you gain in knowledge and in wisdom, like the better you get at stuff like that as well. But it's just not being fully led by your emotions, isn't it? It's just letting them, you know, because I think the fact that we're in these jobs is because we do have so much emotion and care so much. So like, I think to say that they are nowhere near it is probably ridiculous. Like, they do have a massive impact, and they're very important, I feel. It's just not being completely taken by them, you know, and being, you know, it's about them, it's not about you.
I was literally going to say that. So we don't want to be emotionless, like, we're not robots. So we want to, if they're sad, let them know that, not that we're sad, but I think as mentors, especially in the training, you learn a lot about body language and your posture and the way you look at someone and the way you empathise with them. But I have to remember sometimes, is this helpful for that young person? So if they're crying and I feel emotional and I want to cry, is that going to help the young person? No. And most of the times it's no. If they're telling me something and I'm really angry for the decision they've made, is it helpful being angry at them? No. So you have to just be an emotional human without how do I even put it?
But still being there in person
Yeah,
as well.
still being there in person and kind of, yeah, but you have to withdraw from that. And I think as well, so this is something that I think every mentor will understand. When a young person tells you something and you're worried for them, it's being present in that moment, and then we have tools as mentors to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because I won't lie, like having mentees, you worry about them even at the weekend when you're not working. You think, oh, I hope they're doing okay, or whatever they told me on Friday, I hope it's sorted out or whatever. But we have like coping mechanisms to deal with that, and that's why we have debriefs, and that's why we have supervision and other people to chat to.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a hard one.
Yeah.
It's being appropriately emotional.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So these are the last 3 questions now. So what values are you committed to?
Looking at me.
I had a lot come to mind.
I'm gonna say it's really hard to actually like pinpoint all of them. I think values that I think are important, like for every human being.
Even if if you're in sessions and you have some values, like we could take away and use for our personal use as well.
I think that whole value that I was speaking about earlier, about the young person speaking negatively about themselves, I have a value that you should speak kindly to yourself. So I've kind of was trying to, I don't know actually, I was trying to like help her understand that. I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, I'm tongue-tied on that one. What values?
Do you have any values in church?
Yeah.
Loads.
Yeah.
So can you bring them to your mentoring sessions and help others?
That's what we try. That's what we're
trying
to do, really, isn't it? Like, we're trying to be, just that kind of like influence in their lives, and to show them that that one, they are valued, and two, that treating others with value as well is another one. But there's so many.
I think what it comes down to is like if a young person says something and you think, oh, that's not okay for them to be treated like that, or them to be thinking that about themselves or treating themselves like that, we can then be that. We're not telling them what to do with their lives because we're a non-judgmental place for them, but we can say like, okay, a young person comes to you and they're doing drugs. We're not like, yeah, that's a great idea, carry on doing it.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're trying to guide them on the right path.
Yeah.
So I think we're just trying to be that positive influence of all positive values.
Yeah.
And maybe not be like if they're friends, we're encouraging them in a wrong way, or a family member or whatever. We're trying to
guide them away from that negativity.
Yeah. So all positive values. That's what we try and show them.
So, the last one, well, I'll put them together. So, how do you balance your work and life, your home life, and do you have any books or any YouTube music that you could suggest?
So how do we balance work and home life? I suppose and social life kind of.
Yeah, so kind of like when you're in your mentoring, do you have to kind of switch off at a certain point, and how do you do that so it's not interrupting your home life?
I should switch off. It's probably something that I struggle to do anyway.
And that's something you can work on.
Yeah, you can get a mentor for that, George.
No, do you want to use it when I'm but it's definitely, I think, go and having fun, man. Go and having fun, and that's a great way for me to switch off.
Reducing the stress.
Yeah.
I was once given a really good tool, because like say you finish quite a stressful mentoring session, and then you're going straight home and you're just mithered about the young person and you're thinking, you know, all this stuff. I was once told to close your eyes, do some really deep breathing, and imagine a box in front of you and you put all those worries in the box and you close the lid and you give the box. And so, because I'm a Christian, I give the box to Jesus and he deals with it. Or you can just imagine the box being taken away and it vanishing. And it's being mindful. And I think I have things in my routine that help me with that. So I love walking to and from work because on the walk back from work, it's like I'm switching down and winding down. And I know, like, if I lived further away from work, I would drive, and sometimes having a drive and just listening to your music or whatever, you just have that in-between time from being at work and being at home. That's why I could never work from home, because it brings too much work into my home environment. But yeah, just having those things that work for you, and if you don't have them, you can learn what kind of works.
Okay. And do you have any books or any music that you would suggest would benefit your mentor or people in general?
Lots of them.
You're a massive music person though, aren't you,
Maybe
George?
you could put some links on
Yeah.
at the bottom of the obviously the podcast.
Yeah. There's a great, just in terms of books, there's a great book. You're going to know what book I'm on about. I'll bore you.
Yeah.
Just because you reminded me because you were talking about how do you switch off from things, and it kind of alludes to it a little bit in the book. It's called
The Elimination of Hurry. No!
The Ruthless Elimination
Oh, there we
of Hurry, by John Mark Comer. And genuinely that book was like, you know, instrumental, you know, just for me. And I still I should probably go back and read it actually. So yeah, maybe I'll put a link to that in the chat and stuff. So
I think for my mentees, grounding tools on YouTube are really good, which I always try and show my mentees. And books for mentees, it would depend on the different mentee and what they needed.
that's true.
And also, a lot of young people don't read, so YouTube is probably a really good way to kind of show them. And I know some really good songs. I'll link them in the description. There's one by a lady called Hannah something, and it talks about your worth and how beautiful and amazing you are, which is really good to like sing over yourself. But as a mentor, there's so much material out there. That book's really good that you mentioned. And I think as well, being mindful and doing mindful exercises. If you're Christian, you can do prayer meditations. There's this really good app called Soul Space that I use every morning. And it's just whatever you're telling your mentee to do, you have to practice what you preach, because everyone needs it, whether you're in a crisis or not. You know, when you're, you know, people are telling you a lot about their lives and about what's going on, it can kind of feel quite burdensome sometimes. So it's offloading that in a healthy way.
Well, that's all the questions we have for today.
What did you think, Jess?
I think that was very inspirational, and I think it will make a lot of people, like, from mentoring side, it could give them more of a beneficial as well, because they could listen to a podcast and be like, oh wow, okay, that's something I could take and into my mentoring sessions, or as a mentee, well, we could talk about more situations and get advice, really. For me, it's probably, like you said, I don't switch off from work. It's literally all the time my brain's on, maybe reading, maybe doing more activities, and maybe getting what I like out of me as such.
Yeah.
I was telling George that I used to play the piano and the guitar.
What? I did not know this. We need to get you playing the piano and the guitar.
I haven't played in a while,
Yeah.
but that's probably maybe something I can do in the future and get back into it.
I think that is proof that no matter how long you've had your mentee for, it means you don't know them. I did not know that about you.
Well, that's it for today, guys. So thank you.
Do you want to say the
No.
magic line, George?
Sit back, relax, and hope you enjoyed the GapChat.
Woo!